Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie Dow, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. Hey friends, so I can't believe I've waited this long to get this podcast episode out and talking and sharing about Unbound experience. It's so fun. Like, since I've been back, I've been interviewed by two newspapers, local newspapers, and just getting full swing right into my women's gravel event, the Wakefield Women's Gravel Grind, and you can find that on Instagram at Wakefield Gravel. But yeah, surreal. It was amazing traveling across the United States back to Canada. I got to spend some time, 2 nights at the Indiana Dunes conservation area, which is really pretty. You should definitely go and check that out. And then making it back to Toronto and seeing friends along the way. So I saw Ty Luan and in Chicago. And that's where I was headed after I recorded this. Stopped in for coffee to see how he was doing. And then I went on to Detroit. I saw my friend Christine and her daughter, who I met on TikTok, believe it or not. And then on to Toronto, where I got to see my friend Jen. We went for lunch, and then I made an executive decision that I didn't want to do the ride for the Ride to Conquer Cancer. I totally done my fundraising, but I was just not feeling it at all after Unbound. I think I just wanted to get home and see my family, and I just wasn't feeling up to it. So I made that decision and I felt great. And so I hope you enjoy the episode talking about my travel. And for any of you, I highly recommend going and doing something crazy like this. It just makes you stronger. It makes you more resilient. It builds up your mental capacity and the thing of like doing hard stuff and going out and traveling by yourself. And it's okay. Yeah, you can do it. It is fun. It's kind of daunting not knowing people, but you just start talking. And don't say that you're an introvert. I'm an introvert way more than you think, but I'm an extrovert when it comes to sports and business. But I love my quiet time and my me time, and I have no problems. But this is just great to get out there and meet new people. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Have an amazing day. See you guys later. Bye. All right, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, all things cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Dow. And I am here to give you my Unbound XL race report. And I wanted to find the right space to sit here and talk to you guys about it and tell you all about it. I even spent some moments this morning writing down some notes so I wouldn't forget. But it was totally different from last year. As you can imagine, if you've seen any of the race reports or the social media, it was a rolling, dry, hot, fast
race. And unlike last year, which was like wet, muddy, very slow, and a small percentage of people finished, this year you could just tell that it was going to be so much faster because of the weather and the just the terrain. It was like rollers. I liked it. So last year, I'll give you a little bit of context. And right now, if you hear things, I'm at a campground. It's like 9:30 at night, Monday night. I left Emporia this morning after having breakfast at IHOP and, writing down my notes and just doing the numbers of how much I've spent so far on gas and travel. Just getting myself together and deciding where I was going. So at that time, I was like, okay, we're going to go up to Des Moines, Ohio, and then cut across to Chicago, and then so I'm going to camp. So that's where I'm camping right now, is in this really nice, cool little park for $20 a night. Anyhow, so let's go back to last year. And a couple of really cool, unique things. Well, one thing happened, right? So like last year, I was rolling or riding with two guys, Jim and Murray. Jim and Murray from, where are they? Moab. So Utah, not Moab. Jesus. Moab. Anyways, Moab, right? And all three of us were told that we couldn't finish our race. So if you remember, if you heard my race report last time from last year, we got to mile 300 and we're at 12:30 that Saturday night, and we were told that our race was over. So we're just sitting there like, okay, I guess our race is over. And then we saw that a fellow racer finished on Sunday morning, and they celebrated him and everything. We're just like, what? That could have been us. And so we had stayed in touch, and I'm so glad we did, because Murray messaged me. He's like, hey, Sylvie, are you going to Unbound this year? I said, yeah, I signed up for the 350. He's like, oh. So they got on the waiting list, and they both got in to the 200. So they went back to the 200, and I went back to the 350, and all three of us finished, which was so glorious. I got to meet them or see them again, spend an afternoon hanging with them before they headed back. And, that's the kind of thing that, coming here to big events like this, like you get to meet people, ride along some really cool people, people from social media, people from social media know you. So they always come up and say, hey, saw your post, or we're on maybe the same Unbound Gravel page. So there's a page for Unbound Gravel. So if you've ever participated in it, you're in that page. And so people start getting to know each other, which is really fun. That's the fun part about it. I really enjoy the culture that is being created in the US. Now, I'm not going to discount Canada, because I haven't really experienced any other gravel races, and that's kind of one of the things that I want to do, is participate in more kind of local stuff going forward, and helping create the vibe that the States has. They've done some really good stuff to create huge events like Unbound, like Barry Roubaix, Big Sugar, like all these, but they have one big company that runs it, right? It's Lifetime Grand Prix. And and so they do a great job at marketing and creating the competition and getting more people out. And also, let's not forget the environment and these cities or villages or towns that really embrace people coming into their community, spending money. You know, tourism is, everybody wants a bit of the tourism pot. And so I think it's just great for everybody. So all right, last year didn't finish. It was a mud fest. And yeah, so last year I had said that I was going there. It wasn't going to be pretty. I was going to finish no matter what. I didn't. So I was like, okay, Sylvia, you got to go back. You said you're going to go back. And so I registered again. And I believe that I prepared. I did feel stronger. Like my legs didn't, like I was surprised at myself that I just kept on going and I could pull out some faster intervals, downhills, uphills. And I just felt, overly strong for myself, right? I guess that's pretty good. Strong for myself. But so let's go back to the beginning. Let's just do a shout out to some people that I got to see that I've only ever communicated with online or on socials. Okay, so first I got to meet Rebecca Rush. I asked her about 2-3 years ago to be on my podcast, and anyways, of course it didn't happen because she's a really busy woman. But yeah, so I got a picture with her and that was super exciting. And so I'm not I don't follow, I know certain people, and a lot of people know certain racers that are pro, and I'm not really followers like that. So sometimes we met. So I stayed at I don't even know where to start. So I stayed at the fairgrounds, and at the fairgrounds, there's a whole bunch of us camping beside each other. So we get to meet each other. So I met this guy, Mario, who is actually from Hudson, Quebec, which is an hour from me, which is crazy cool. Owen from last year, who was my tent mate from Ireland, was down again. So that was such a great surprise to see him. And then there's this other guy, Jeff, who was at the other end, and we all kind of started hanging out. And then Michelle from last year, he was here. He's now part of media. And so anyways, we all go down to the expo and we're hanging out. But and that's the cool thing, right? You just meet people, we click, we start hanging out, and Jeff's like, hey, that's Rebecca Rush. And I've never I've never seen her, right? And so when I say I met Rebecca Rush, I didn't really know it was Rebecca Rush until he pointed it out. And I was like, oh my God, can I get a photo with you? Anyways, I got a photo. So I started my voyage to Emporia. So this is what I do all the time. So this is what I did last year. I put together a 2-week trip. So the 26th, May 26th was a Sunday. My husband wanted me to rent a car so we don't have so much wear and tear on our current cars, because we want to keep them for a little bit longer, and we don't, yeah, you know what I mean? We don't want to have to buy a new car. So we rented a car And I found it an amazing deal. I haven't rented a car in a long time, but like 16 days, unlimited mileage for less than $800 as a Costco member. Okay, so if you're not a Costco, I thought it was amazing. So that Sunday, packed the car, camping stuff, 2 bikes, cycling gear, food, you know, and then Monday morning after the kids got on the bus, I started driving. So my first night, I stayed in Akron, Ohio, with a friend, Carl, and he's been training with me for 2 years through my cycling program online over the winter. And he's a big gravel racer as well. So it was really cool to see him. I got to see him last year on my way back. We went out for lunch. So I stayed the night at his place, and then I drove then to St. Louis and checked out St. Louis. I've never seen St. Louis before, and the Arch. That was pretty cool. I got to do some research on that. If anybody wants to enlighten me on the story behind the Arch, please put in the comments on YouTube. And that's when I took out my bike and for a little bike round to see how, just to test it out and get a little bit of riding in. And I found that my gears weren't working. Like, I couldn't, like, nothing was really working. And I don't know if it's because of just the packing, because I had to take both my wheels off, and I didn't know if my the derailleur got shoved around, and so I was kind of like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? Because that's devastating. You know what? It's one of those things, like, I have got to learn how to adjust my derailleur. Like, this is becoming a real concern for me, because if anything's going to go wrong, and that's like basically the only thing that I don't understand about the bike, besides the spokes, but I'm not going to get into that. So I was on Wednesday, I was scheduled to stop in Smithville to see my friend Damien Bosey, and check out his bike shop. He just like moved into this huge space. He's got so many good things going on with his community and cycling and events and really, really cool stuff. And he's got kids stuff going on. So check out Smithville Co-op Bike Shop. I think, yeah. Smithville is just outside of Kansas City. So I messaged him. I said, hey, Damien, I didn't really want to do this, but my gears are not working, and can you take a look at them for me when I come by? He's like, yeah, no problem. Come on, I'll take care of you. So as I stopped by to see him, he took a look at my bike and he did some adjusting, which was super grateful. So after that was Wednesday around lunch. I then proceeded to go to Emporia. So you see how it's like nice little stop. So it's kind of fun. I'm not by myself. I do a lot of driving, but it's great to see friends and just, catch up and do a little chatting and then keep going. So I arrived in Emporia around 3:30. Went to the campground, camping spots, $20 a night. Underneath the overhang, the beef barn, I guess. And that's where Owen was already, and like I said, I got to meet a bunch of other people. So that evening, after I unpacked and everything, we took our bikes and went down to check out the gravel. They have like a gravel awards, but induction. They have like Hall of Fame. The Gravel Hall of Fame happens on Wednesday night, and they've been starting this, I don't know how many years, maybe 10, and they bring a woman and a man. Anyways, I didn't get to see it because we didn't buy tickets. However, we kind of went in and crashed a little bit before we had to leave, and that's where I saw Jason of Gravel World and also of the Gravel Family podcast, Jason and Sophie, and he's like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And that's the second time I've met him. I met him last year. He was on my podcast. We talked about Gravel Worlds, and he's like, "I just had my 12 o'clock cancel." He's like, "Would you like to be on my podcast?" I'm like, "For sure." So it's like 12 o'clock Friday, 3 hours before I start for the XL. I'm like, "No problem. Do it for you. Do it for me." And then we went in and we, chatted up a couple of people. I saw to see Marley Blanqui from All Bodies on Bikes. I got to see Raish McBride, a couple other people. Anyways, we hung out until we couldn't, and then we went down the street and had supper. So by then it was like Mario, Jeff, myself, and Owen, and so it was nice. It's cool. It's fun to meet new people and then just like chat and get to know everybody. And then we went back, and so Thursday morning there was a shakeout ride. So there's a whole bunch of different rides that are organized by different companies like Shimano, Chamois Butter, you know what I mean? Like they have rides almost every hour, every 2 hours. So if you want to go out and do a shakeout ride, somebody's leading, it's like 20K, you just go out for like 45 minutes. So anyways, we went for the Shimano shakeout ride for 11 o'clock. And that was like an hour. Then we came back and kind of racked our bikes and went right into the expo. Now, I don't have any pictures. I do have pictures of the expo. It's massive. It's almost overwhelming. And I'm kind of glad that we were in there when it first started, because last year it was just too much. So many people. Like everybody who's anybody is in their booth, like bikes and tires and clothing and events and food, and like there's just everything cycling you can find in there. If anything, you just come for the expo and get all the freebies and leave. So like we're just like, oh, is this free? Is this free? Can I grab that? So I have all this stuff that for the kids, for myself. I've got like all these new bottles and scarves. So it was a good, like, yeah, we just got to meet people, and we tried on those compression legs. You ever see those people, like the pros, they pull on these big, long, they're like, I would say like they're like socks, but they pull them up right to your thigh, both of them, and they're for quick recovery. So what they do is they massage your legs and they move, like, increase blood flow. And so we all there was nobody there, and so we all like, hey, let's sit down for this, and it was pretty amazing. Jeff actually bought a kit, and we're like, oh my, like they're $700 US, but I think that's worth it, because I used them on Sunday when I got up. And after that, we proceeded to yeah, I think we've spent about 2 hours in there, and then I had to go for a meeting and pick up my race kit for Unbound XL, because everything started at 2 o'clock for picking up race kits, and I had to go for a meeting last minute. details and changes of the map. And I'm like, oh my God. So I had to figure out how to download that on a Thursday night. And then what did we do after that? I think we came back and I just started getting all my stuff ready and packed, and my food for Friday, so that I didn't have to do too much in the morning, because then I'd just be packing up and going down for the interview and then coming back and packing my bike. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. Now, I'm going to jump to Friday, and I'm going to sort of walk you through the course. Now, sitting here right now, it's almost like I can't believe I did that and rode for that long. It was 34 hours, and I'm telling you, friends, there are certain parts of me that were so sore. Okay, so like last year I had big foot pain and I had big crotch pain. This year, I still had the crotch pain. Well, how can you avoid it? I don't know. Next time I'll bring like the whole tube of chamois butter and just keep applying. Honestly, the stuff that I was using, because I picked up some samples and it was really thick, white, creamy chamois butter, and I don't think it really did very much besides causing me pain. And my toes, big hot spots. One would go numb, then the other would go numb, and then they're both numb and tingling. And sometimes I was almost brought to tears how sore they were. And my neck. Like right now, the back of my neck, and I don't know if anybody can give me some advice to this, but it's numb. The back of my neck is numb. And it's almost like if I go to scratch it, I can't even feel it. And I hope that's not nerve pain or nerve damage, but it was just next level. It wasn't next level, but it was pretty. It still is pretty. It's sore. And, things like this last year, I think it took 2 months for my toes to feel normal again. Stop tingling. Like even when I went cycling, like some of the rides were unbearable. But let's get into it. All right. So Friday, woke up, got all my stuff together. Like I kind of did things on Thursday, double checked the maps, uploaded the route. And I left at 11. I went to McDonald's, got a couple cheeseburgers to bring with me. And you know what? They weren't that great. I thought they would be amazing, like a big ass treat, but they weren't. They were kind of gross. And that was disappointing, fortunately. But on course, had some amazing pizza. And then I headed down to the expo for the podcast interview with Gravel Family, Jason and Sophia of Gravel Worlds. And that was super fun. Really appreciate those guys. I know podcasting is hard. And I'm really glad that I'm going to be on their podcast. I've been hoping for that for a while. It's funny how that happened. Then I went back, got dressed, and biked down to the start, which like the fairgrounds is 2 kilometers away. So it's not a bad little warm-up ride. All right. Now, everybody in Excel, if you watched the race, had a tracker on them. So they literally, it's so cool because they started doing this for adventure racing. So you could track your team. And so you put it on and you've got the course. You can see where everybody is on the course and how fast they're traveling, and all great, like some really cool stats. So I had let everybody know that I was going to be in the event and to track me. And so shout out to some of my friends who posted about it, like Wendy. It's kind of fun. Like, I mean, not that I didn't think about it, that people are following me, but I've followed my friends on some races, and it's really cool to watch their progress and cheer them on from home and things like that. So when I was waiting in the start line, one of the guys beside me we were talking about the tracker, and he's like, yeah, you can watch yourself on the tracker, check it out. And then I was like, hey, I'm not on the tracker. So I was like, oh my God, is my tracker on? And then you had like 10 minutes to start. So I went up and I found one of the girls, Christy Moon, who is one of the organizers. I'm like, Christy, I don't think my tracker's on. Can't find me on the tracker. And so we got Andrew, who is the guy who is doing the tracking, to double check. So my tracker was on. It was just that my name wasn't input into the list yet. Because I paid that the night before for the tracker. And so got that going, then everything was good. Okay, so my first goal of the race was to make it to the first stop of Maple Hill by 9 p.m. Okay, so there's 207 200 participants, 27 were women. I don't know how many people ended up on the start line, but it was pretty cool. So the start, I had moved up because I was asking about the tracker. And so I was kind of close to the front when it started. So I started out, no, don't get me wrong, I didn't stay up at the front for very long. It was short-lived. But I always say start your race at the front, because if you're going to fall back, then at least you're going to fall back into groups that are your speed. Whereas you start at the end, you're always going to be at the end because there's nobody to pass you. Okay, so if you do events, participate, or chair, move yourself to the front. It's okay. You're going to be safe. But it gives you a better chance of riding with people, where if you stay at the back and you're afraid of getting mixed up with the fast people or crashing or being too close to people, you're just going to be working by yourself at the end all the time. So, but let me tell you, I was at the end. No, lots of people passed me. And I was kind of in the mid-range. And yeah, I was still biked, I think, 90% of that course by myself. Okay, so just put that into perspective. 560 kilometers, 90% of that I was by myself. Me, myself, and I, and everything around us. So my first goal was to not stop at the first start, which was Estridge, and then stop to make it to Maple Hill by 9 p.m. So that's 6 hours to go 120 kilometers. So that was the gas station. So by the time I got there, there was no hot food left, no pizza left, nothing that I really want to eat, it's a gas station. So I was like, fuck, great. So I knew that there was another stop 10 kilometers down the road at Valero. So I went down there. They were staying open for us. And so I went there and they had some pizza. Amazing pizza. So that's 10 p.m. going into the night. After stopping and getting some food there, and I'm like, I think I'm probably one of the last people. She goes, no, there's a group of people, and the last person is Bob. Just like, I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm not the last person, because I'm feeling kind of like I'm the last person. Anyway, so going into the night, the next stop was Elma. And thank God for lights, because once I hit Elma, there was a guy behind me. I could see his light. And I swear to God, like with Garmin, if you take one slight turn, you're off course, and then it doesn't reset for a while. And I was just standing there. I'm like, I don't know where to freaking go. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait for this guy. Thankfully, he wasn't too far behind me, because I would never have gotten to that gas station if I had not followed him. Honestly, God, just like, I have no idea where the fuck I am. So got to the gas station, followed him to the gas station, and just sort of filled up on water and got a Coke and some other snacks. Ooh, excuse me. That's why this is like 10 p.m. Got some snacks, and then I'm like, do you mind if I follow you out of town? Because I don't think my computer's reset, and I'm not sure where to go. So the whole time when I was following him, my Garmin is not reset and back on track yet. I was like, holy shit, I hope the other ones aren't like this. Like, they're a little bit more straightforward. So we finally got out of town, and I had told myself that I was going to nap around like one of those stops, like somewhere later in the before sunrise, like around 4 or 5 o'clock. This was around, I don't know, I think it was like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And so we're biking along, and I'm feeling really tired, and I'm just waiting. He's not much of a talker, right? I was like, at least we could talk and stay awake. I'm like, oh, wait, we don't got to talk to me. So I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I just said to myself, I'll go, next time I see like a lane or somewhere that I can kind of pull over and have a nap, that's what I'm going to do. So we came up to one area, and I said, you go ahead. I'm gonna nap here. I need to take 15 minutes and just sort of lay down. And that's what I did. Like right on the rocks, I just turned off all my lights, laid down, and set my alarm for 15 minutes. And I had a little nap. But you know what? It was good, but it wasn't as good as last year's nap, like in the parking lot at the Casey's. And so after my 15 minutes, I got back up, and I think I'm kind of glad that I was by myself. Only 2 other people passed me that I could hear or remember, but it got really foggy, like really foggy. You couldn't see very far in front of you, and those downhills were slower because you couldn't see anything, even with your lights. And some of those turns came up way too fast that, I almost had a couple spills into the bush. And on gravel, it's not fun. So you just need to like really chill and take your time. Even like going uphill, trying to find your line was hard. But I'm telling you, the most beautiful part was the sky. It was so full of stars. Like I've never, like where I am, you can see stars, but like not like this. Like if I could, if I wasn't racing, I would have just laid down in one of those grassy fields and just stared up into the sky. I could see the Small Dipper, the Big Dipper, Orion. Like there's a lot of constellations you could have probably found. And I tried to look up as much as I could, but of course you don't want to take your eyes off the road because, that's all it takes to catch a couple of rocks to throw you off balance. But it was so clear and beautiful. Like, when you hit those places that just don't have a lot of pollution and a lot of light from the cities, and you find that spot and you just stare up and take it all in. It was one of those nights. Like, I just kept on looking up and go, wow, so gorgeous. Yeah. Another part of that night is I had a nap number 2 because number 1 wasn't enough. I came up to this guy who was at this road river crossing, which wasn't very deep, maybe a couple inches. And I just sort of laid down and put my head down and had a little snoozer there before I took my shoes and socks off and walked my bike across. The water was really nice and warm. And then I kept on going. And so that's really all I needed that in the night were those 2 little naps of, I don't know how long I was out for then, probably maybe 10 minutes. And this guy was calling it a day because I guess he'd eaten too many gels. Stomach was upset or something. And then, rolling on from there. So that was probably about, 3-4 o'clock, and it, gradually the sun came up, and I was pretty damn happy that I was halfway through that course by 6 a.m. Because based on last year, I was not. I was still walking in mud at 7 in the morning, and it was demoralizing last year. But this year is really much faster. So as I rolled in, there was another stop. It was Vola. Rolled through there, didn't really see much going on. Several people just kind of waved, and I was like, a second, was there a stop there? So really had to move on to Alta Vista, which was another stop, and before Alta Vista, which was Little Egypt, which is it's kind of but before I hit Little Egypt, this is a funny thing. So Owen and I were like passing each other, he's like, have a good race. I'll see you at the end. Yeah, you too. Have a good race. So he passed me and I passed him. And then he had finally passed me like after that Elma stop. And so I thought like, oh, he's way ahead of me. And I came up to this guy who had a flat. And I guess he had tubeless tires, but he had, I guess, like a hole that he couldn't patch, or his sealant didn't have any particles in it, from what I could tell. So he had a tube, but he had pinched it, so there was a hole in it. And I said, okay, I can give you a tube. But what I could do is maybe patch your tube. So if you could pump it up, find the hole, I'll patch it for you. And then you can use that tube and I'll leave you one of my tubes. So once I got to Emporia, I bought these 2 new tubes because I bought new carbon wheels, which have a deeper dish, which required a 60 millimeter valve, and all my tubes were like 48, so they would never fit. I'd be screwed. So I bought these 2 really nice lightweight tubes that were like $20 each. So anyways, I left him with one. And then all of a sudden, like, Owen rolls up. I was like, what the hell? Where did you come from? He's like, yeah, after Elma, I found this really nice spot on the lawn of one of the houses, and I slept there for like 2 hours. I was like, oh my God, you're good. You're all rested. So, so he stayed with the guy that was fixing his tube. I got him all started. He was almost done. And I rolled off with this other guy who had stopped to see if everything was okay. And so we came up to Little Egypt, which is like basically you roll into this gully. I won't say it's a gully, but like it's a valley. It's got all these trees, and you go down into this rocky, like across, and then this rocky steep up, and there's a couple little hills in there. And you know, it's cute, it's nice. One thing about this course, like I said, it was rollers and punchy little uphills. And like kind of like a quarter of the way in, my climbing gear stopped. So I was stuck like, you know, maybe on the highest one was like the 17. I couldn't get into my climbing gear. So I had to climb out of the saddle almost every climb, or because my feet were so sore, or I would just walk up the pitchiest, like rockiest little hills. They were never very long, you know. And so that's what I had to do. Like, I was working hard. My legs were working hard on those hills. And I'm so grateful that I do a lot of like hill climbing and hill climbing clinics, because man, did I need it. So after that, went through Little Egypt, and we came up to Alta Vista, which was a water stop, and this was the last stop. This one was fairly long between this one and Council Grove, and this is where I bought my next 2 slices of pizza. These pizzas were really good. I mean, really good, salty and cheesy and really good, and just what I needed. And they really held me over. I was at that time starting to get sick of all the other stuff that I had. So picked up the pizza there, took off. And after Council, like I got my notes here. Yeah, so from Alta Vista, picked up the pizza, went to Council Grove. So between Alta Vista and Council Grove was probably a 60K ride, or maybe 70. And this is where like we started seeing people from the 200 and the 100 miles. So it was kind of nice to like see people, like more people than just one person, and chat with people. These people, like, I find maybe Excel, like, people aren't that chatty. Like, I'm not that chatty. I'm on a mission. But if you're riding the same level, then I'm chatty. Because one of the rules I said to myself, I said, this time, is that I'm not going to spend time chatting with somebody who doesn't have the same goal of finishing and isn't riding at my pace. So I really held strong to that, and I left people, you know, it's like, but also in this section, I did this little steep climb, and at the top there was a photographer, and like, hurry up, get to the side, because the pro men from the 200 miler are coming. So me and like 5 other guys are standing on the side, like this chopper starts come over. If you see my Instagram social media, this chopper comes, and then all of a sudden, like, this motorcycle like just barrels up this hill, and the 2 first pro guys show up, and then the rest of the field start coming. We're like cheering. It was pretty cool to be there at that moment. And I was like, oh, what about the women? But the women started like 20 minutes later, so didn't stick around for that. And so I continued on, and this is where I encountered the second person who needed one of my tubes, and it was one of the pros from Canyon. His name was Peter. I was just biking by him. I guess it must have just happened. And he's like, "Hey, do you have a tube and a CO2 cartridge?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm like, "Oh God, and give me my last tube. I friggin' hope nothing happens." And I don't know what he did, but he ripped off that tire, put the tube in. I don't know what he had for like the top of a CO2 cartridge, like, and I kind of biked off and let him do his thing because, like, I'm sure he knows what to do. And he didn't catch up to me though until coming into transition area, which was in Council Grove. That was the next one, the big pit stop for everybody. And oh my God. So he's like, when he asked me, he's like, just go to the Canyon tent and ask them for a tube. They'll give you one, say that you helped me. And I'm like, okay, I really do need to do that because I need to have at least one tube on me just in case. So anyways, I took off and made it to Council Grove, and that, I wish I'd taken a picture, but that was where all the, like, if you're doing the 200, you get to have a support crew or bring your own support crew. So it was like full of tents and people and like companies and team tents, and it was really cool. Like I said, it went on forever, and it was, I wish I'd taken a picture, but at that time, I'm just like, I've got to get these bike shorts off of me and get a new pair on. And so that's what I did. I did stop at Canyon. They gave me a tube, and then I was off. The second last section. So this was the second last section, was the long stretch. It was like over 100 kilometers. Or just a second. Yeah, it was about 100 kilometers to the next checkpoint. But that means like I'm well over the halfway mark. So this is cool. And this is motivating that you're over the hump. Like sometimes I find like the first part is the hardest, right? Because like you're working. And once you get close to midway and you like drop over the other side, it's like hitting the top of the mountain, and then you're going over the other side and back down. So you work so much, and now you're like, okay, I'm laser focused at finishing. I'm making really good time based on last year. And it's easier to keep going. Now, like I said, this is the long section, and I can't remember what time I came into Council Grove, but let me see if I can think, because I knew it was going to take me about 7 hours. So, okay, I think I came in around 11. And so in the morning, it was cool, overcast, really nice riding weather. I mean, really nice. And then the clouds disappear and the sun came out, and it was hot. So the last route, I made sure I had enough food and enough water for the long stretch, because that was going to, like I said, have like 7 hours for me to do that. It was over 100. Anywho, it was that I calculated that I should get to the last checkpoint, Calton Falls, and that's for the last section to get home by 9 p.m. Okay, so 9. And so the heat was coming out. I still by myself, right? By myself the whole rest of the day. And at one point, it was around 2 o'clock. I was like, fuck, this is so hot. I'm like, I am just going to, you're kind of like biking in as much shade as you can because like the heat. And so I was like, I'm just going to lay down, have a little siesta underneath the tree in the shade on the side of the road. So I was like, basically look like a dead person. laying there sleeping. It was like, took a little snooze. And I also stopped at a lady's house and asked for water. And she gave me some water and ice. Super nice lady. I was like, and thankfully I stopped them because I didn't see any real houses until much later. Now, I did not know this. I heard this at the end that a lot of people, like in the 100 and the 200, were highly affected by the sun and were dehydrated and were pulling out of the event because of heat stroke, dehydration, things like that. I didn't know that till the end, but I could see it. It was pretty hot, and you know, even like drinking hot water is kind of at the end. Now, moving forward, I beat my time. I got to the last stop at 8:30, and I was so motivated. Oh my God. So this is the last 60 kilometers to the finish. So you're like 60, like you're just ready to go balls out to the finish. And I'm like going, but oh my God, there was so much climbing, like more climbing, like long climbing on this section. And by the end, I'm like, when the fuck are we going to get here? Because like you go 4K, then turn, go 3K, then another 6K. And, like all these like routes back and forth. And I felt like I was going backwards, and I could see these lights on the windmills, like on my left side, on my right side, in front of me. I'm like, where the fuck are we going? And, I was just really starting to get annoyed at that point, because I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm on my way home. I'm going to make it. I'm going to finish on time. And that's like almost the most surreal feeling when you've been out that long, that you're actually going to finish on time, like in time, that, you just want it done, right? This is it, going to be done. So it literally took me, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 10, 11, 12, 1. So like 5 hours for 60K. Like, fuck. I know I was traveling faster than that, but, after a while, I'm like, oh my God, this is going so slow. Yeah. It's almost like, so when finally got to the finish, it was 2:00 or just before 2, and there was still a group there, a big enough group, giving out awards and cheering and photos, and the timing group. And I only imagined what this would look like last year. And so I had brought my Canadian flag, and I came in too fast because I was going to pull it out and kind of wave it like Kelsey Mitchell at the Olympics. And I pulled it out too late, and I was through the finish line before it got to wave in the wind, but this is what my vision was. And so I went back and took a couple pictures, but oh my God, as soon as I got off my bike, whoa, what a wave of pain from my crotch, from my toes, my legs, everything. But it was so rewarding. Neil was there doing little interviews from Gravel Guru. They hand you this massive mug. It is so heavy, like you can hardly carry anything. And I think they might rethink that gift, especially shoving it into your face, like giving it to you right away after you get off the bike, because literally, like, you're just like, where am I going to put this thing? I can't hang it off my handlebars or anything. And apparently some people drop it because it's so heavy and it breaks. And got this kick-ass medal, got all the pictures, missed out on the food, got a beer. But here are some questions that people always ask me about, what do you listen to? And what do you think about? And I thought about this in my many hours of riding, because last year I went through some ups, some downs, like some cry fests. This year, I didn't think about much, to be honest. I know it sounds crazy, but I was really focused on my cycling. I was really focused on the people in front of me, like, not like, I didn't really think about anything. I was taking it all in. And one of the things that I like about the North Loop compared to the South Loop is that there are trees. It's more lush and green. There's definitely more cows. And I felt safer because we were always cruising through like residential, like there's always like these roads are country roads and there's more people living on them. So, if something happened, there was never like big sections, like I'd say, like without like a house somewhere on it. And it was just comforting to see that and feel that, because last year half my fear of during that race was having a mechanical in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, and you were responsible for getting yourself out to like a service road to be picked up. And like sometimes you had to like walk kilometers or bike kilometers to this one spot, and that was scary. I didn't feel that this time. Like it was a lot of rural area, which was really nice. And like I mentioned, the cows. So there's one section. I like turned the corner. I was in this you kind of tell you like you're in a pasture. I turned this corner, and I have to bike alongside the fence, and I come over the hill, and all the cows are like huddled in the corner on the trail. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck am I going to do? So I go into my farming background and I just like, okay, I'm going to just approach them really slowly and start making a lot of noise. And so when I started approaching, they started scattering, like, because they're afraid. Well, they started running away. I'm like, okay, this is a good sign, because I need to get over that grate, which is about 30 feet in front of me. And then they all stopped and then turned around and then started walking towards me. I was like, oh my God, this like stampede of cows, like just trample me. Like, can you imagine? And so I started screaming, yelling, and like lurching at them, and they started like scared, backing off. I was like, okay. Then I like race for that grate. Oh my God. I was like, what? We're like literally in a field with cows. I'm not the only one that came across them. But back to what I was thinking about. Like, I don't listen to any music. I find it hugely distracting because, eventually at some point you're going to be like, oh, I need to change it. I need to find something. So you have to stop. I find it's a big waste of time, especially, yeah, that's just my take. Like, I do listen sometimes when I'm training, but I think it's better to train without music, because you really do need to be focused on your performance and your cycling and your environment and the people around you. That music is, or ebooks or whatever podcast is distracting for you. And so, yeah, I just took it all in. Like, I looked at everything. Like I said, I was looking at the stars and like seeing how beautiful it was. I didn't have a moment really where, I thought about my kids or my husband or the fact that I need to find a job and all these things. I think there was just so many rolling little hills that there was no time to think about anything besides keeping your line going down and finding the line going up. down, up, down, up. Because honestly, it was constant. But, you know, I really enjoyed it, except the last part. I thought the last part really sucked. I thought it was really, at first I'm like, oh my God, I'm finishing. This is going to be so awesome. I was so psyched that by the time I get there, I couldn't fucking wait to finish and just like cross the fucking line and get this done. And, but yeah, it's over. It's over. I did it. And I said, no, I'm not coming back. Then I started thinking. About, you know, when you do hard stuff like the 350, it was hard. It was long. It was hard. But the thing is that when you do hard stuff, it means you can do more hard stuff. Because, you know, your hard stuff might be 30K, 10K. You're just getting started. I started like 25 years ago. So I've been doing a lot of hard stuff and building up to where I am today. And, you know, maybe people don't know that, but it's a lead up. It's a build up. We have many, many, many years to do great hard things or just great things. They don't have to be hard. They can be exciting. Like, I think of some of the cycling tours that people are going on and trips and bike packing. Like, there's so many exciting things that are around us. There's a lot of exciting events. And one of the things I was thinking about, like, I said, no, I'm not coming back. I'm done. But when I started looking through social and I'm like, you know what? If I did come back, I'd want to come back with like a handful of friends. And I would not do 350 again, probably ever, there. But to do like the 50, which is 100 kilometers, and finish in the afternoon and enjoy like coming across the finish line, like the party, the food, having a beer, sitting around, talking about the race, like that's what I would come back for. Because if you do the 350, I mean, you have to be so freaking fast to enjoy that part. That, you know, like I don't wish to be faster. I like to enjoy more of the party. So I would probably come back and I'd bring friends and I'd recommend like doing like 100K and enjoying the party and enjoying, you know, meeting more people and being more social. That's what I would recommend. And there was just something else that came to mind. Yeah, but I know that there's other events, and I met a couple guys. Oh, that do Big Red, which is just not far from Montebello, where I live. I'm going to see if I can get a free entry there to go check theirs out. They have like a whole party in a field. That's kind of cool. I love like tailgate parties. And what else was I thinking about? Yeah. Anyways, it'll come to me. But yeah. So I hope that inspired somebody to go do something fabulous. Because anybody can do this. You can do this. Maybe not now, maybe next year, maybe the year after. But like I said, we've got many years to do great things. We don't have to cram everything into the first year of your cycling experience. I know a lot of you are getting into gravel, and it's more like, okay, how do I ride gravel? How do I ride gravel safely? Like, how do I take corners? How do I go down hills? How do I go up hills? That's a good question. I might have to put together a clinic about that. But in any case, now, you know, it's funny. I was driving and I hit a gravel section like coming out here. on my way home, and I'm just like, had this little bit of PTSD. It's like, oh my God, gravel. It's kind of funny. Like, I'm just like, I don't need to get on my bike right away, nor do I really want to get on my bike right away. My crotch will not let me get on my bike right away, nor my toes. And I'm just relishing and enjoying, my trip back to Canada right now. I found this nice little place to camp, and excited about. I was able to get 2 spots at the Indiana Dunes campgrounds. Last year they were full, and this year there's lots of vacancies, which is cool. So I'm booked there 2 nights. I'm gonna do some riding, do some hiking, maybe sitting on the beach, depending on what it's like. But it's so pretty. I stopped there last year and I was like, oh, that's the place I'd like to come back. And so I'm spending 2 nights there, and then I'm going to spend Thursday night in Detroit. And you know what? I recommend anybody going on a road trip with yourself, and just, there's tons of apps out there that tell you where there are campsites. Like, I found this one on Dyrt. It's called Dyrt, Dyrt. And, it shows you as you're traveling where there are places you can camp. If you have an RV or a trailer. So it's super convenient and easy. I was hoping to camp at a farm. They had chickens and everything, and it wasn't available. But so, yeah, I hope you like this episode. And, just know that you can always do great things. You never stop yourself because you think you can't do it. Pain is temporary, but accomplishing something like this is permanent. So remember that. We're always going to feel uncomfortable, but it's not fun if it's not, doesn't have to be super uncomfortable, because we always grow through uncomfort. Remember that. Oh yeah, I got to meet Liz King. I forgot to mention that. We actually got to chat a little bit and compare gravel scars. That was kind of fun. She's a really nice lady. What else am I missing? I don't know. Find an event close to you, sign up for the shortest distance, and go and enjoy yourself. And get motivated to do a longer distance the year after. Get your training in order. And if you ever want or have questions, fire me off a message on YouTube. Or you can, fire me a message, like put in a comment on YouTube, and I'll get back to you. If you want to know more, if you have questions about this event, put it on YouTube, and I'll get back to you. Anyways, I appreciate all of you as our loyal listeners of the podcast. I hope that made it sound fun. I didn't have any cry fests this year. Last year I did. I thought I might, but when I went into that space to think about my kids and my family, I was immediately kind of drawn away and just focusing on the ride. Yeah. And finishing, because I had a serious goal. I wasn't going to not do it this year. It was just not an option, if you know what I mean. Not an option. This guy's got blue lights. It's kind of cool on a truck. Anyways, I got to get to bed. It's almost 11 o'clock. Thank you again. Don't forget to follow the podcast on YouTube. Put the notifications on. It really does help the channel. And you can sign up for our newsletter to let you know every time a podcast episode goes out. And you can do that through www.secretsfromthesaddlepodcast.ca. You can sign up for a newsletter there. And follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening. Bye, friends.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day, make sure you ride your bike, and don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.